So we have three main films that we're going to talk about today. Terminator, then we're going to talk about Avengers, and then we're going to talk about Alien Resurrection. So, Tig, take it away.
Released on October 26th, 1984, The Terminator is quite a well-known film, but it's about a cyborg assassin known as the Terminator who is sent back in time from 2029 to 1984 to kill humankind's most important woman, the unsuspecting Sarah Connor, whose son will one day become a savior against the machines in a post-apocalyptic future war. Kyle Reese, a human soldier from the Resistance, is sent back in time to the same year and arrives shortly afterwards to protect Sarah and stop the cybernetic killer from eliminating the world's last hope. But the Terminator has no feelings, he doesn't sleep, and above all, he will never stop until he's carried out his grim task. Written by James Cameron, Gail Ann Hurd and William Wisher Jr. and directed by Cameron, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger in what is probably still his most iconic role, the Terminator, Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor, Michael Biehn as Kyle Reese, Lance Henriksen as Detective Hal Volkovich, Paul Winfield as Lieutenant Ed Traxler, and Ed Bowen as Dr. Peter Silberman. So yeah, some behind-the-scenes interesting facts about the film. As the story goes, during the release of Piranha 2: The Spawning, director David Cameron fell ill and had a dream about a metallic torso holding kitchen knives, dragging itself from an explosion. Inspired by director John Carpenter, who had made the slasher film Halloween on quite a low budget, Cameron used this dream as a launching pad to write the iconic movie. For the role of Kyle Reese, Orion Pictures wanted an up-and-coming star with foreign appeal, and met with Schwarzenegger and sent his agent the script. Cameron, however, was dubious about casting him as Reese, and after a meeting with Arnold and talking to him, Cameron realised he would make, and I quote, one hell of a Terminator. However, he wasn't the first choice. Both Sly Stallone and Mel Gibson were offered the Terminator role, but turned it down. I wonder if they regret that now. And musician Sting was suggested for the role of Kyle Reese. Thankfully, Cameron ultimately chose Michael Biehn. So, Mark, do you think Terminator would still be your favourite film ever if it had been Mel Gibson versus Sting?
Maybe not with Sting. Big Mel Gibson fan. So, but just I do also know that O.J. Simpson was up for the role.
I had heard that too.
And I know that Arnie had lunch with James Cameron, and it went on for about 5 hours. Him telling him how the film should be made, everything, and battered him down so much. And in the end, Cameron just said, "Look, you're the Terminator. You'll do it. You'll be absolutely perfect." But you can see the whole Halloween thing in there, and going back to the horror influence of Terminator. Michael Myers, and you put Arnie next to him, and the actions, it's a very similar kind of thing. So you can see where all that came from and how it inspired the film. But I couldn't see Sting in there, no. Michael Biehn he's Kyle Reese. There's no other Kyle Reese. He's Kyle Reese.
What is it, do you think, about this film that makes it resonate with you so strongly?
I just think I'd never seen anything like it before. I'm not sure I've seen anything like it since. I just think there's a feeling to it. The detail in that film, the way, when his skin all burns off, because, his living tissue on the outside of an endoskeleton. Before that, there's a bit where he jumps through fire and there's a police car and he punches through the windscreen. His eyebrows are burnt off. It's just little details like that. You believe this is a real thing. It's really happening. The continuity is fantastic, and it ends up with this cyborg. Sorry, it's not a robot. It was just so unique at the time, and for the budget, I just think it's never been bettered.
In the 21st century, a weapon will be invented like no other. This weapon will be powerful, versatile, and indestructible. It can't be reasoned with. It can't be bargained with. It will feel no pity, no remorse, no pain, no fear. It will have only one purpose: to return to the present and prevent the future. This weapon will be called the Terminator.
You're dead, honey.
What day is it? The date!
12th May, Thursday.
What year? I'm here to help you. I'm Reese. DN 38416, assigned to protect you. You've been targeted for termination.
Why does it want me? Why me?
Arnold Schwarzenegger is the Terminator. Your future is in its hands.
The progression when you first see him and he's Arnie and like, oh, it's some scary guy, and then slowly kind of the humanity gets removed from him until last you see that iconic scene of him emerging from the fire and he's just the Terminator. Like, oh, okay, now I understand why he's so unstoppable.
That whole end scene is just, and again, a real 80s thing, having the double ending, but it just works so well. I mean, I didn't see it in the cinema first time. I saw it on VHS, but I can imagine people, when he steps up out the fire and goes after them, I'm sure there was a lot of screaming,
Oh yeah, for me personally, seeing Terminator and Terminator 2, for real Terminator 2, like T2, gave me nightmares. The whole endoskeleton stuff, it's just like do, and you see the endoskeleton just like coming through the flames. I think that's the beginning of T2. It's terrifying. It is terrifying, and those kinds of images have stuck with me, for over 20 years, and they are amazing, amazing films and terrifying ideas. Like just the whole idea of, computers taking over the world. It's not that far-fetched anymore.
and just how much it inspired other movies as well, especially, in the 90s, just everything copied, especially Terminator 2, just the action, the set pieces, everything ripped it off. And again, none of them did it as well, did they? So, yeah, just a real game changer. I mean, the effects of the liquid Terminator in Terminator 2, again, no one, I mean, I was 15 when that came out, and just, you've never seen nothing like it. I was into my computers then, even then, and just to think that was computer generated was pretty, and it still holds up today.
Terminator, it's a huge franchise. It didn't just spawn many, many movies, of which we're only going to talk about 2 because the rest were rubbish. There was also an amazing TV show, The Sarah Connor Chronicles. Lasted 2 seasons and featured 2 amazing Whedonverse alumna, Summer Glau as Cameron Phillips / Alison Young, and Game of Thrones Queen Bitch Cersei Lannister.
Yeah.
Lena Headey as the titular Sarah Connor. Did you watch the show when it was on?
I did. Obviously, anything Terminator related, I'm going to watch. Even a horrible sequel. But I actually quite enjoyed the Sarah Connor Chronicles. For me, it was quite nice. It was going somewhere a bit different. It was, obviously different actress. Wasn't Linda Hamilton and things like that. But you soon get on board with that, and I thought it was quite good and probably could have run a bit longer.
I think that's really the mark of when you have a great sort of actor or actress in your show or your movie, when they can take on such an iconic role and within like an episode or 2, you're like, no, it's fine. She is Sarah Connor. She's not Linda Hamilton, but she is Sarah Connor. And that's when you've really, really hit the nail on the head with the acting and the writing and everything.
Again, she's a fantastic actress. I mean, as Cersei in Game of Thrones, but she was also really good in Dredd. Absolutely brilliant actress, and I think that was a big part of it. She was a great actress, and it was an enjoyable series, actually.
As far as I'm concerned, there was 3 Terminator films, just the first 3, and even the third, Rise of the Machines, is, I can take it or leave it, but Terminator and Terminator 2, Judgment Day, superb, absolute A-star movies. That's all I need. In 2009, Joss penned an open letter announcing his $10,000 bid for the Terminator franchise. I
did not know that he made a bid in it, but I would love to see the Joss Whedon Terminator movie. I just think he would do a great job of it. I think, as because he is so good at story, he would have a new take, but I think he would do it in a way, I don't know, if you can bring the Avengers together, I know we're going to there in a bit, but if you can take all those characters and make it work in the way he did, I think he's the sort of guy who could, get Terminator going again. But for my personal thing, I think they should leave Terminator alone for 10 years.
The Terminator, your favourite film of all time. Mark, your standout scene from that film, the one which encapsulates why you love that movie.
I think I mentioned it earlier, but the nightclub scene in Tech Noir. There's so many Tech Noir t-shirts out there. That's why I haven't done one yet, but I have working on my own take of one of those. Basically, the bit where it all comes together, where the 3 protagonists meet. Sarah Connor's hiding in a public place, so she thinks she's safe. She's ringing the police. They're telling her to stay there, stay safe. if people don't know who Kyle Reese really is at this point, he's sitting at the bar with his sawn-off shotgun, waiting for her. He's keeping an eye on her because he's waiting for the Terminator to come in. Terminator comes in, breaks a bouncer's hand on the way in as he walks in. The way the editing, the music, the way she thinks Michael Biehn is the one maybe coming to get her. That way that whole plays out, and the way the Terminator does not care, it just shoots everybody. And then Michael Biehn comes, saves the day. The knight in shining armor shoots him through the window, and the chase starts. For me, that is the whole bit where it comes together, and you're like, wow, this is serious.
Kelly, I imagine you've got a favourite picked out.
Not from the first one, per se. I think more in what's in my head, because I watched it a lot, and also because I'm more of a kid of the 90s than I am of the 80s, so I was born in 83, is more of like Terminator 2. So I will say I don't really have a standout scene, but anything that shows the endoskeleton is horrifying. So I will say anything that shows any of that. Yuck. Him taking out his eye, that's pretty intense. Good, crazy kind of body horror practical effects.
All right, I have a confession. I have not watched The Terminator probably in 20 years.
Right, I'm just about to hang up. Bye-bye.
I know my dad used to watch it all the time, so I would just be watching bits and pieces. So after this podcast, I will totally be watching it.
Number one, put it on about 11 o'clock at night.
I mentioned it earlier, my favourite scene from Terminator 1. It's got to be that scene where he's emerged from the fire, and the first time you see the endoskeleton, you really see the Terminator for the first time. This is why he's so implacable. This is why he's so scary. Dude is actually just robotic death in human form. You can't fault that. Although I must say, speaking of the franchise, there's no scene that will ever affect me as much as the thumbs up in the lava.
Heartbreaking.
I sobbed I was going to say I sobbed like a baby, then I realised I actually probably was a baby the first time I saw that film. I think I was about maybe 10 or 11. But yeah, I absolutely sobbed the first time I saw that scene.
Yeah, it is heartbreaking. I mean, Edward Furlong's reaction there, that's when he could act. There's a real connection between this chemistry, believe him, and Arnie is fantastic in that scene. Terminator
perfectly illustrates the concept of less is more.
Mm-hmm.
2 films. The less we know about the Terminator, the lore's great, but just leave it kind of in the corner of our eye. Don't go too big, don't reboot it. Just please, James Cameron, if you're listening, I know he's unkillable, but let the Terminator die for a while. Let him sleep.